she works as harder than anybody I've ever seen. And her consistency separates her. But at the end of the day, she loves to swim. And I think that's what is really special.
Welcome to Social Kick. I'm Brian Lundquist. We got the full crew, Dr. John Mullen, Luke Paddington, and if you can't tell from the video, Stanford's own, Greg Meehan. What's up, Greg? How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
You know, in fairness to that laughter, Luke and I are both branded, and usually Luke and John are wearing some bright colored Social Kick shirts, so it's only fitting that you would be repping your fat head that you hung yourself in the background with the Stanford logo.
Yeah, that Team USA. No, it's not, you know.
You got a lot keep of everybody happy of all the gear. I'm sure you got plenty of swag. But hey, Greg, first we ask our audience who follows us at Social Kick Swim on Instagram and on YouTube if they have any questions for our guests. And first, we're going to start off with some of the things that are happening with you out of the pool. This one's from your pal Abby Swim wants to know, do you attend dance classes with your wife? And I'll add to that, what's your favorite dance move at dance class?
No, and obviously I don't have one. So I was when I was gone a lot, kind of the early part to middle part of the summer, my wife did a hip hop dance class with Katie Robinson, who's our associate head coach here, and so I did get back in time to see the final performance, which was awesome, and so just really enjoyed that. But I am not partaking in the dance class.
If you were to partake in a dance class of some sort, what do you think your best? What do you think you would be best at? What type of dance?
Oof. Probably something like the very simple like cha-cha slide.
All right, Stanford team. And now it's on you to course Greg into doing the cha-cha slide on deck. All right, this one's from my pal and yours, Coach Kim Bracken. If you had to give up one, give up one of these at morning practice, coffee or music, which one is it?
Oh, yeah. Sadly, it would have to be music because the coffee doesn't get very too far away from the hand. So
can't do it. How many cups a day are we drinking, Greg?
Just two, but I need the first one when I get up in the morning. I live literally right next door to a Starbucks, so I just walk out my gate over to Starbucks, grab it, get on the golf cart, and drive over to the pool. So it's my routine in the morning is pretty simple.
Yeah, wasn't it Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, that they were on Hard Knocks or something, and he was having like 3 ventis with like 4 espresso shots, and people online were like calculating his caffeine consumption. Like, Dan, I think you have a problem, man. We got to talk about this.
Exactly.
Dan Campbell's the best. All right, speaking of the best, Torri Huske wants to know on a scale of 10 to awesome, how cool is Torri Huske?
10 out of 10. I know better than to not say anything other than a 10.
Well, that's a good way to jump into what you've been up to lately. I know we'll get into the college season and what's going on since Paris and since the summer. But obviously, Torri had a huge Olympics and arguably the best amongst the U.S. swimmers. And despite how good of an athlete she's been over the years, it was still like, whoa, Torri had a hell of a meet. I was even thinking about like she was on some of these I can't remember the sponsor, but Toyota or something like that. It was on one of the commercials, and they were like focusing on her, and I'm like, man, whoever her agent is, like they really got a lot out of that investment. So I don't know, man. Wherever you want to start, like tell us about like the summer and kind of what some of the highlights were for you.
Yeah. The interesting part about that commercial, or part of it, was Summer Sanders still has a lot of like local contacts for Northern California, and obviously being a Stanford grad, she's still pretty invested in what we're doing here. And so when she had reached out to kind of get that shoot going, it was like, oh yeah, it's awesome. I didn't really see it until I got home from the Olympics, and then. The end of that commercial when she like Torri pops up on the deck and it's something to the effect of like, it's me or whatever that'll be ready for the games was very it's kind of perfect timing. It was a great summer. and really kind of the culmination, I think, of a really good year for our team. We had a pretty awesome college season as well. You know, we swam well at Pac-12s. We swam great at NCAAs. And then just kind of kept things rolling as we got ready for trials. And like trials is, you know, you could say we only put one person on the team in Torri, but our performance there as a group was pretty awesome. We track, you know, lifetime bests and improvements and all that stuff. And that was off the charts and the best trials we have had since I've been here. And so it was just a really fun week or 2 weeks in Indy. And like coming out of that, I think it was pretty easy for Torri to feel excited and confident about what was coming in Paris. You know, I feel like one of the things that we do really well is that kind of trials to games performance, you know, from 2016 to 2021 to this summer. I think that's something that we've patterned out really well. And so, yeah, I think she came out of those trials feeling pretty excited about what was ahead. You never, you know, assume that you're going to win, but I think she knew that she had some great performances ahead of her. And yeah, it was just an awesome like culmination of a really fun year for us.
I coached for a while, and every meet I went to, I always learned to maybe a better coach the next meet. And you know, this was your third Olympic Games, and you've coached world record holders at games and Olympic gold medalists at games. What do you think it was about you at these games that maybe it helped? Because I mean, you see you and Torri together. What do you think you matured or changed, or your experience showed in Tokyo that perhaps helped that recipe that made Torri Huske win 3 gold medals and 2 silvers?
Yeah. You know, I think it's probably a recipe that's a little bit older than that. You know, in a lot of ways, while we swam well in Tokyo, it was such a situation unique into its own, you know, during that time in the world with coming out of a pandemic and no fans in the stands at the games, which was just, you know, such a surreal, you know, kind of experience. So I think it really, you know, goes back further even to being in London in 2012. I wasn't on the US staff, but I was there and watching, you know, how Dave Durden had kind of prepared Nathan for trials and then went to the games and he wins gold and kind of an upset, right? I mean, he'd beat James Magnuson, who was arguably the favorite at that point. Just sort of taking each of those experiences and then making that my own. And so I think, you know, it's a really delicate balance in the US because trials is so damn competitive that you've got to be on, right? You can't go to trials and be like, I'm just going to make it and then focus on the games. But there is a little bit of a balance for those athletes that are favorites and you feel like can make the team. And you're obviously resting them and preparing them for that. But always feeling like you're just holding a tiny bit back. And in being able to then like have that turnaround. Cause even though it's, you know, whatever, there's 4+ weeks in between, it's still like emotionally, you know, it's really hard coming out of trials, whether you make it or not. And so, just not going all the way to that emotional well, but just like holding on to a little bit to then be able to kind of get them back into routine. And so I felt like, you know, we've done that well and learned, you know, even in 2016, you know, almost to a fault, in that experience with, Simone for a good example. And like, she was okay on the first day of the meet in Rio on the relay. And then like by the middle of the meet, she was rocking and rolling and, you know, wins the 100 free. And then a couple of days later wins silver in the 50. And then, you know, it's a great splits on the relays at the end. And so this one, I feel like I did a better job of, and obviously much more of this is about Torri, but like did a good job of getting her ready for day 1 of the games and day 9, because she did race a lot over the course of the meet. You know, she had 3 swims on the first day, and then, racing every couple of days, and then still racing on day 8 and 9 and being effective there. So I think I learned a lot through that, just the preparation. And, when you have someone that comes in and works really hard every day, it makes it a lot easier to be able to kind of pull back the lens and like, okay, we're going to press here, here, and here. And not feeling like we had to go from 0 back up to full training. It was like just above that. And then, so it's an easier transition to really good training. And then you get into that Team USA environment, and that always is sort of the thing in your back pocket that makes it really special experience.
Do you have a memory of some advice you gave to Torri? Because, there's nobody who knows a swimmer better than the coach. And you knew how good Torri is. You knew how good she was in the water, her training. And she goes into trials and she swims well, but gets beat by a world record, for instance. And then she goes and she makes the team. She's confident. She's having a great training camp. Everybody says so. And then she goes to Paris, and knowing that she had just been in Tokyo out touched for bronze, that plays a lot on having to get her going and realizing her potential. And, something you guys did and clicked just blew up and kept exponentially improving to that amazing 100 free silver. Do you remember, how do you get an athlete to truly just fulfill their potential you see and despite their own disbeliefs or concerns?
Yeah, I think a lot of it dated back to kind of the year before. So Torri came in after Tokyo. The fall after Tokyo was her freshman year, and she had a good freshman year. Swam well at NCAAs, then went to the World Championships and won for the first time in Budapest. And it wasn't as strong a field, but she won gold in the 100 fly. I think she won bronze maybe in the 100 free, and had gone a couple of best times. And then followed it up in her sophomore year, was awesome through NCAAs. And then kind of the wheels came off there that summer of 23, and didn't have a very good World Championships. And so coming out of that, it's just a year ago at this time, I was with her over in Berlin for the World Cups, because I felt like she needed to get back on the horse right away in terms of racing to kind of move on from the 2023 Worlds experience. And so she went to Berlin and Athens, I think, whatever those first 2 stops were. I went to the first week. I really appreciated Katie taking things on here and the team supporting Torri going and supporting me to go help her kind of get back into routine. And I think that was actually a big piece of it, to building her confidence back. She raced a ton, all events, some different events, but just racing and having confidence in that. And then just going back to work. And then every time that she raced, she was just a little bit better. And so the idea of when you go from World Cup to US Open and you're better, and then you have some really good swims in Knoxville, and then really good at Westmont, and then really good at San Antonio. By the time you get to trials, you're feeling confident. And, Gretchen just had an unbelievable swim, has had multiple unbelievable swims. But when she broke that world record, I think the thing that we talked about post trials to the games was just the idea that you can't control what anybody else does, but you have to believe that you can still win because your best swimming is still in front of you. And that's the idea of trials wasn't the peak for her. And you can see that in the times, and you referenced her silver free, right? Her silver in the 100 free. That was arguably a better swim than her 100 fly, going 52.2 when her best time was 52.9. And so it's those types of conversations. And it's every couple of days, it's not every day, you can win, you can win, you can win. It's more talking in the affirmative of you're going to be better, and this is how you're going to do it. And just every time we did a quality set, she was better than she's ever been. And we're just building that foundation. And then the other thing that, I don't have to say to her is she loves the moment. She absolutely loves the moment. She's really competitive. She's super competitive in that in that realm. She's not, I don't think like overly competitive outside of that realm, but like when she's in that space, she wants to be the best. And, you know, at the end of the day, like that's what's going to drive her those last 15 to 20 meters to, you know, have a really great performance. So it isn't like one thing, I'd say, Luke. It's more of just a process and continuing to build that momentum through the course of a year.
You mentioned speaking in the affirmative and, you know, being positive with it. One small thing I noticed is when you're talking about the athletes, you know, Simone in 2016 and the 50 free, she won silver. So-and-so won bronze. Yeah. Is this a kind of a term and kind of phrasing that you'd like to incorporate with the team, or is that from USA Swimming?
I think just, you know, the athletes, I think, have been, they've talked about this publicly in the past of the idea of settling for silver is just like cringy, right? You're the second best in the world in what you do. And so it's the idea of celebrating success. I can remember like Cody Miller, you know, getting on the lane line in Rio when he won bronze. It was like, that was freaking awesome. Right. And like everybody loved that, you know, and so you think of, you know, anytime that you're standing on the podium, regardless of the color of the medal, is a crazy good accomplishment. So I think it is important that you do talk about it in the affirmative and in always through a positive light of winning a medal, whether it's a bronze or a silver or a gold. It's still like, just an amazing accomplishment.
Talking about which, 2016 was a heck of an Olympics for you. I mean, Maya's race, what Simone did, Katie, obviously, Leah. But you seem to be, maybe I just forgot or I didn't see it, but you seem to be even more overwhelmed with emotion after Torri. You know, what was the difference between, say, 2016 and what Torri was doing?
Yeah. Well, if they had a camera on me in 2016, it probably would have had a similar result. You know, those were like, we had a couple of crazy moments, like 2 days apart between Simone's 100 free and Maya's 200 back. That was like, you know, off the charts. But I think for this particular experience, you know, we have taken it on the chin a little bit publicly or on comment boards about our performance through a period of time. And, you know, I think sometimes people have short memories in terms of where our program was pre-COVID, and, you know, and then it took us a little longer to like get back to normal. But, you know, Torri stayed here and she committed to this place, her teammates, us as coaches. She never stopped believing in what was possible. And so, you know, that means a ton for our program. And so, in that moment, it was excitement for her to reach literally the pinnacle of her sport. And it was also like amazing for our program. Right. And not about any particular individual, but just about like Stanford women's swimming and diving. And so, sorry, my lights go off from time to time. I apologize for that. But it is just
dance moves.
Yeah. But it is, you know, it's like one of those things where you see somebody do something truly spectacular in the most important moment of their life. And I'm a crier anyway, so, you know, it's okay.
All good.
But man, you're right. Yeah. People do have a short memory. And for whatever reason, the comment boards, man, there was a period of just like so much negativity towards the program and everything. And it's like, I mean, I guess part of it is when you take on already great swimmers, the expectations are outlandish to some degree, or they expect perfection. But I guess, how do you keep yourself focused and out of that world for the program? And then probably more importantly, how do you prevent that from your swimmers or recruits and things like that? Because, you know, they're young and they're probably more susceptible to it as well.
Yeah, I think there was a time where they felt it, our team, like they felt that sort of negative aura publicly. And frankly, you know, we used it to our advantage this past year. It was, you know, the summer of 2023 was really rough for a couple of different reasons. And we talked about the just kind of the legacy of our program and how important that particular year was last year. And that was an awesome like rallying cry for our team, and they embraced it, and holy smokes, it was just an amazing year. And it wasn't any particular moment. It was just like, we were really good start to finish, because they were like, enough is enough. And, we're going to remind everybody of who we are and what we're about. And so it was really neat to kind of see them embrace that. We held on to a couple of streaks that are really important to us. We're the only school that's ever finished in the top 10 at every women's NCAA swimming and diving championships. It's like 41 years. We've never been outside of the top 10. And so like, even though we knew we wouldn't necessarily, if we had a bad year, it could have been close, because we knew Torri was redshirting and we had a diver that was redshirting. And so we had a really small roster. We only had 18 on our collegiate team last year. And so it could have like gotten sideways. And so like, that was a streak that we maintained. And obviously we did much better than just being in the top 10, but there was a lot of that, having an individual Olympic champion again. That's 3 straight games for us. No other schools done that in the last 3 Olympic games. So there's like some really cool things that we've just kind of continued to keep as part of, who we are and our history. We're really proud of that. And now we're ready to build and keep getting better.
Hey everybody, quick pause to say thank you for watching and listening to Social Kick. If you like this episode, give it a like. And if you like what we're all about, consider giving us a follow or subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, @SocialKickSwim. You know what to do. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll keep telling all the stories about swimming. Cheers.
I remember my freshman year at McGill. It was Andrea Nugent, silver medalist at the Barcelona Games, comes back from the games and comes on deck. And I'm like, holy crap, let's go. I was so, as a freshman, like, this program created a silver medalist. Like, this is legit. And it lifted my freshman year. And then after Atlanta, Marianne Limpert walks on deck with a bronze medal. And it's like, she chose to train with us and I'll train with her. And she pushed me so much in workout. I had my 2 best years right after the games because of my teammates who had excelled at the Olympics. I sometimes overtrained, probably, but I was so lifted and the team gelled. What's Stanford been like in this September? How is it? Have you seen something different? It felt something different?
I think there's a lot of positive energy, and I think there's a lot of confidence about what we're doing and where we're going. I will say we've been cautious about the workload because I think that's the one thing that, they're coming out of a bigger break, because even the ones that had a great trials, if they didn't make the team, they didn't continue to race the rest of the summer. They took a break. So when they got here in September, they were coming off of arguably the biggest break they've had in the last, maybe some of them, it's the biggest break they've ever had in their life. And so even for Torri, she took time off after the games, and like, we don't start school till September. So they were allowed to sort of take a breath. And so they came back like motivated and excited, but we've stepped into it. Last week was really the first week that we've done a full schedule because we didn't want to get to November or December and be exhausted. We want to make sure that we're going this way. Better or worse, I feel like my brain operates in quads. And so, not just thinking about this year, but also just like, okay, we've got time ahead of us. And so, I think that the energy and excitement is really good, and we're being thoughtful about how we go about it.
Have you seen people set their eyes on LA already? Have you had meetings with the athletes and says, I felt it in Indy. I want LA. Have swimmers thinking 4 years ahead, or is it just you?
Not yet. Yeah, I think for now it's just me and a little bit of I think Torri has said publicly, she's like, the idea of a home Olympics is really exciting, and that is a driving force for a lot of people. For Team USA, we got to get ready to perform well at our home games. But it's 4 years away, and I think the there is the idea of like staying in the moment and those kind of short things in front of you. And so we're going to use the college season to do that. Because it can be, you can fatigue through that if you're redlining too early, physically or emotionally. And so just trying to put like, okay, here's just our little things to move forward. Even if it's in the larger plan, it's not we're not having a ton of day-to-day conversations on it.
Yeah, you mentioned, Team USA needing to have a good LA Olympics, and I think we're hearing that echoed a lot with different swimmers, different people around USA Swimming. I guess, what was your interpretation about Team USA's results at Paris?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the team still swam really well. We weren't as good maybe as we wanted to be. And there are certain things that are outside of your control in that moment. And so it's, as we process results, there's a ton of pride for how the team performed. And I think there's also a sense of, okay, we can be better. And that's okay. It's okay to come out of the games and feel like it was good. We still won the medal count. And we want to be better, 4 years from now as we get to a home Olympics. And so, there's always going to be like ebbs and flows to performances. And I think there were certain things that were set up that helped set up the team really well for success. And there were other things that were a little bit outside of our control, like the heat in Croatia and the water temp. I know people have talked about that quite a bit, and it made, training difficult. If you were writing a workout to be a 7.5 out of 10, like it was hitting them at a 9, and so that's where it made it difficult, I think, for coaches and athletes, because we almost left Croatia tired versus leaving Croatia like, ready to just go crush it. So those are all part of it. It's not a single it's not a single thing. It's not one person. It's the collective. And so, I think there's some things that collectively we can do better to improve performance next time around.
Greg, speaking of collectives, in a different light, you're now coaching in sort of a different era here. I know you've got a few years of adapting to a different model, but with so many different changes, I mean, moving to the ACC, although really it seems like based on your schedule this year, that really only affects, the February conference meet, but I assume over time, maybe there's a greater shift for more involvement throughout the season with some of those ACC teams. But I mean, with these different things happening within, what it takes to be like the leader of a collegiate program at the top level, I'm just curious about like how you navigate some of these things. Maybe taking one off, like what's going on with the conference shift? What does that look like over time with, are you over time going to spend more time traveling or trying to race those teams throughout the year? How does that change any of the like recruiting dynamics or anything like that? First, maybe we start there and we'll come back to the NIL stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think in this first year, especially, a lot of schools are being pretty cautious on spending and budget. That's been messaging. That's been consistent messaging, I guess, in conversations with colleagues. And so there aren't very many teams traveling very much at all. Not only is our schedule a little bit lighter, but, it used to be really easy to get teams to travel out west because you could swim Cal and Stanford, back-to-back days and make it a really worthwhile trip. And we would always have people that wanted to do that. And oftentimes we'd have to, kind of pick and choose out of a group of schools that wanted to come out. And this year it was a lot quieter in that conversation, I think, for that reason. And so schools are just we're being kind of cautious until the sort of the House settlement gets like T's crossed and I's dotted. And so, it's a bit of a holding pattern this year. The beauty for us is like we do have great schools to race out here. So we're still swimming a lot of our Pac-12, our prior Pac-12 rivals. And I don't anticipate that changing very much. We may add an ACC school or two, but we're not going to actively seek to travel cross country unless we have to. And so, you know, one of the good or bad, I think one of the great things about swimming, in my opinion, is, you know, it's about what happens at the postseason, not necessarily how you get to postseason. So, you know, our dual meet record has no impact on our standing at the ACC championships or the NCAA championships. And so that gives us the flexibility not to travel and to put our resources elsewhere. And so that's kind of how we've approached it. And I don't see that changing a ton in the future. You know, just everything is different about this year. So we were just being we're going to kind of let things play out a bit. I mean, it's the first time we're doing a combined conference meet. We've never had that before. Yeah. It's the first time we're doing a 4.5-day conference meet. We've never had that before. And it's the first time that we're a week earlier relative to the NCAAs than we've had before. So there's a lot of change there. So I kind of want to let that play itself out this year, learn from it. And then, okay, next year, maybe we adjust some things or maybe we don't.
Were you just like, man, finally not going to Federal Way? Then you're like, oh, crap, NCAA is at Federal Way.
I love Federal Way. I don't know why everybody poo-poos on Federal Way. That facility is awesome. I mean, we've had our Pac-12 meet there forever. It's a fast tank. As I look back to, you know, the 2012 NCAA championships was pretty awesome. So I'm excited to go back there. I'm grateful that we're going back. We travel to the East Coast often enough. So this is good.
Yeah. I wonder if actually over time, it just, the whole like conference realignment, you kind of hang on to some of your traditional rivalries, matchups that are fun for the school and the previous, you know, Pac-12, and just like bide your time. Because who knows? I mean, I personally feel like it's like consolidating to then only go the direction of pro sports and like form divisions. So then you could have an ACC West that includes all the teams you're already talking about. Give it like 5, 6, 10 years. So
yeah, I mean, people have asked like, are you going to be in the Pac-12 in the ACC in 5 years or 10 years? Like, I don't know, probably, but who knows? And to your point, like, it doesn't make sense if you don't have to compete against your conference schools until the end of the season to stay regionalized, right? It's budget sensitive, budget awareness. We need to protect our sport, and increasing our budgets by $75,000 to be able to go travel more would be kind of silly. So, that's where we're at right now. And I do think at some point we probably go back to a regional model, but who knows?
Yeah. You said something that struck me there, and that you think it's a good thing about swimming that, like, you know, the in-season stuff, that it's really about the peak, the end of the year meet. And, you know, I don't know how I feel about that. With the dual meets have never mattered. There's in-season team rankings that mean nothing. So do you think that is ultimately a good thing, a positive for the sport?
It's not that the dual meets don't matter. It's that it doesn't matter for the purpose of placements, right? I love dual meets. I think like competing against schools in a really competitive dual meet helps our team perform better at the end of the season. So I understand your point. It's not as though I'm not like hey, dual meets just don't matter, we can swim slow. That I'm not of that mold. But I think because it doesn't, we're not having to put together a schedule based on trying to have a better seeding at ACCs. We're trying to put together a schedule that's going to help us perform really well. So I like that model. I do think to your point, the postseason meets at some point are probably going to need to look a little bit different if we are wanting to grow our sport and get more airtime on TV. It's inevitable. What that looks like, I think, is what a lot of coaches are talking about now. But as it relates to, the regular season, yeah, I love just kind of dual meets. You can kind of do what you want and race schools that are close by because you're still going to get really great racing. And that's going to prepare us for the end of the year. I don't think traveling to the East Coast, 3 or 4 times like some of our counterparts in lacrosse and baseball and softball are doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff with dual meets going on. You obviously have Kyle Sockwell doing his tour. He was at the Battle of the Burr. You have ASU selling beer. So I guess, have you talked about this internally? What can be done? Are you going to charge $10 for a beer and a 10-meter jump into the bubbles or something like that from the students? I think that could be a big moneymaker.
Avocado toast.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about the beer into the bubbles. That may not be very good from a liability perspective, but
what? Stanford's not worried about that. Come on.
No, but it is. What does the model look like, and what do we want it to look like? And so, I think back to when we had Katie and Simone on the team together, and getting 1,500 to 2,000 fans here for some of our dual meets. It was amazing. And if that were happening now, it would really kind of make me pause for additional thoughts and figuring out like how to maximize this. I think we're still in a bit of I guess the best way to say it is this year, it's just like, I'm just paying attention to what's going on. I think there's so much change that's happening so fast. It's not that we're not trying to stay ahead of it. It's trying to like, just really pay attention and who's doing things well. And then, okay, how can we take that and make it our own and make it even better? And so, yeah, it's just the revenue sharing, if you're selling beers at the meet, then it's like, okay, well, $1 for every beer is going to get split to, your team. And okay.
Man, what a deal. $1 beers in Palo Alto. I think you'll sell out, man.
So it's like, how do we do that? But I think that's a conversation that's just going to continue to evolve.
Stanford sells itself. And from a recruiting point of view, it sounds like a dream school to coach and recruit at, but it's not at all. When I coached at McGill, it was really hard to recruit the athletes to get into a school that was really hard to get into academically. And it was hard to get us there. And then conversely, my nephew is now a junior at Stanford. He was a state champion in 200 fly in Hawaii, and he got in academically at Stanford, but he applied too late to swim for you, and he frankly he wasn't fast enough as well, and he was recommended to go swim with Alto or what have you. Twofold question: what advice do you have to have my niece be set up to swim for Stanford, and what advice could you have for other coaches out there who are recruiting an environment that's difficult to get in with a lot of restrictions academically or whatnot?
Yeah, I'll answer this question less specifically from a rules perspective.
Sorry,
but it is a place that Stanford is a pretty magical place, right? Like you can come here, have an amazing academic experience, and it's not just like people always talk about the degree. To me, like it's not the degree that makes this place special. It's what they're experiencing academically through the course of their career. The environment here is collaborative and hardworking, and you can really pursue whatever you want. You don't have to declare your major until the end of your sophomore year. There's so many cool things about this place, I think, that makes it different. And then you include the campus. For anybody that's ever stepped foot on campus, it's the most beautiful place I've ever been. And then obviously from a swim side, we have a really strong history, and we're trying to add to that every year. And so it is a place that is, if you're someone that really likes school, I think most people would put it on their list. And so the challenge is we're not able to help people get into school outside of a certain little nudge. I mean, they have to challenge themselves. Our very best athletes that have ever come through the program have all taken a lot of APs and have done really well in school. And, so there are those requirements. So that in a lot of ways that keeps our recruiting net a little bit smaller, and in some ways makes it easier, and other ways it makes it harder. But, for kids just to continue working hard in the classroom and in the pool. It is a kind of a choice, like having 2 teenage boys who have kind of somewhat gone through the process recently. You know, you're wanting them to balance what they can handle in school and be happy and social and, you know, kick butt in whatever sport they're doing. And so it is just that fine balance. And usually at the end of your sophomore year, you kind of have to make a choice of like, all right, if I want to pursue these like 6 or 8 schools that are really great academic schools, I'm making the choice to really challenge myself in school. Or it's like, I need a little bit more balance. And so, you know, that's for each person and their family to decide on their own. So I don't know if that really answers your question, Luke, but that's a little bit of like, from a parent perspective, having gone through this, you know, that's the way I look at it.
I guess it was just rooted in the fact that it's amazing the record that Stanford's had academically and athletically over the years. I mean, yeah, you walk on to me, my favorite pools in the world, eucalyptus trees surrounding you with the honor of all the Olympians and world record holders outside the pool. The sense you get there and doing it for what you said, 41 years, NCAA top 10, it's incredible. And it was just like, you guys are doing it right, and kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Greg, have you ever thought about auditing a class?
I have, yeah.
Have you done it?
No, I haven't. They do have some like continuing education stuff that you can do. In fact, like the hip hop dance class was like you can kind of do that continuing education stuff. But I've often wanted to sit in on some of the classes at our business school because it's 100 yards from the pool. But oftentimes, especially being a parent of kids, like getting home and wanting to make dinner and have family time and do all that stuff. So because a lot of those classes are either in the afternoon during practice or in the evenings. But it is something I have thought about a lot and would like to do at some point.
Yeah, it seems like take advantage of, I mean, you've been there for quite a while now, but it must be interesting just to have, so many, to be recruiting based on the academic experience, and then to be there and like be so close to it that you might be able to take advantage of it. That'd be cool. Also wanted to ask too about just like following up with, the connections that you have at Stanford. Who are some of the like, Tara Vanderveer comes to mind as someone who was long tenured and a lot of success and, amongst the coaching ranks. On the women's basketball side, I'm curious, like, just who are some of the connections that you've made in this, however many year, 12, 13 year period that have, just been formative for you?
Yeah. This place there is a sense of community within athletics here. In a lot of ways, the athletic footprint is all in the same space. Your basketball arena, your football fields, your tennis courts, like baseball, softball stadium, everything is right in one spot, including the football field, right? And the practice fields. And so in most cases, football's kind of off in their own space, a bit more private. And here they're like right in the middle of everything. And I love that. And when David Shaw was here, I think also because he went to school here and he was here when Jenny Thompson was here and Summer Sanders was here. And so he had like a true appreciation of our sport and what they were doing. And so really great relationship with David. And Tara is one of one. Her career is just incredible, but also she just loves to help other coaches and athletes, right? She loves Katie. She's like, I saw her at an Olympian event that we had on campus here on Friday night, and she was talking about texting Katie if she was coming in for the weekend, and people that just like love to have conversations about how the collective we can get better. And so we do that. I'm sharing the pool deck with John Tanner, who's one of the most successful water polo coaches in the history of the NCAA, and his knowledge. I mean, he was an athlete here. He's been a head coach here for a very long time. So just really trying to take advantage of those, within the coaching ranks, but then also just, people that can help us both on campus and beyond. Andrew Luck was a big supporter of kind of the Olympic movement this summer. He put a couple of events on in Paris. He's sending me a text of a picture selfie with him, like 2 rows off the pool in Paris. Cause he loves Stanford athletics. And so getting to know him, getting to listen to the things that he's thinking about and how he's trying to help us across campus. So there's been a ton of people that have been really influential in the last 12. This is year 13. And it has made me better appreciate the larger Stanford athletics community.
Oh, you just said it there. 13th year. You're not, sorry to break it to you, the spring chicken coach anymore. You've got quite a bit of accolades yourself. So I guess what wisdom or things do you try to embark with new coaches coming in, whether they're swim coaches or other coaches at the Stanford brings in?
Yeah, I think the experience of navigating admissions and, a little bit of the recruiting process and what makes a Stanford kid a Stanford kid. I think that there's different personalities, but there's a lot of common bonds and traits, and how we don't ever have to ask somebody to work harder, right? And so it's just like that idea of okay, how does that work in this environment here? And so those are conversations I think that I'm having as well, not just with other coaches, but also with our staff. We now have 3 coaches with Kim Williams joining us this year. She's a 2019 Stanford grad. She swam here. She gets it. So those are conversations that we're always having about how to make our team better, and in some cases talking with other coaches about how to help their teams, just like I'm going to listen to things that they're doing in ways to make their team better.
Like you said, you don't have to tell a Stanford person to work harder. What percentage of your athletes are type A or just wound pretty tight, you'd say?
Is there a number that's greater than 100%?
No, throw it out there.
No, they're the majority of them, yes. And I would think the best way to describe them is they're definitely hardworking. They are always seeking improvement, whether it's in school or sports. And they're curious. They love learning. And again, whether it's school or sports, you don't come to Stanford if you don't like school, or it's not even if you love school. It's just you love to learn and you're curious and you want to increase your breadth and depth of knowledge. And so, those are kind of the type of folks that generally come to school here. But I'm not oftentimes asking them to work harder. Sometimes figuring out how to make that hard work a little bit smarter, a little bit better, more efficient. But it's a pretty fun place to be.
Every summer I go and I stay right across the street from Stanford, and I would ride my bike over to the pool. And those who don't know Stanford pool, you can be by the fence, you can see them training, and you can see the whiteboard with the workout. And I go by Stanford Masters, and I see the whiteboard. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not joining that team. I never once swam a Stanford Masters because it's 10 400s or something. Do you get in the water yourself? What do you do to remind yourself of the love of what we did since we were kids? The love, the feel of the water, being there, and how does it help you as a coach or as a person?
Yeah, I think just being on deck, I get that same perspective. I think also because I'm on deck so much, the water itself is less appealing, and I want to go to a different space, right? And so
hip hop dance.
When I was when I was younger, I would play in a basketball league on Sunday mornings. I really enjoy golf. My wife is into pickleball, and so we'll do that. Just I like to stay active. But less on the swim side because we're on deck a lot. But I also remind the staff and the team to make sure we appreciate and take advantage of the opportunity that we have there. Because it is you walk down on deck and you've got so much water. Right? It's incredible, right? You can have both swimming teams, both water polo teams, a diving team and an artistic swimming team all training at the same time. Right. So it's, we want to make sure that we don't take it for granted, but we take advantage of being there. And they don't always do 10 400. So you should come back and get.
I think Luke's calling you out, hearing that you don't swim. He's like, finally, a guest I might be able to beat in a 50 free.
Next summer, you and me, Greg.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg avoids swimming from coaching. Luke avoids swimming because he's talking about swimming. So, Greg, what could you go in a 50-yard freestyle right now?
Oh, come on, something god awful. I haven't done more than the last time I actually got in and swam like 600 to 1,000 maybe was probably 3 years ago. So
that's enough.
Yeah. So I don't think very good. And I'd probably hurt myself either on the start or the turn. So
that's why I don't do it, Brian. I got injured washing dishes yesterday.
Luke, you're not helping yourself, man. Come on.
I tore my meniscus this summer running on the treadmill. It's just a sad state of affairs when you get to a certain stage in your life.
Oh, you're killing me, Greg. You can't be doing that. All right, we got some rapid fire questions for you. We'll let you go.
Okay.
What's the hardest race in swimming?
Okay. To my 200 backstrokers out there. 200 backstroke.
Hell yeah. Olympic gold or world record?
Olympic gold.
Most annoying thing that an athlete can do?
Swimmer or athlete in general?
Well, I was thinking about your athletes, your swimmers. What annoys you?
I mean, just thinking back to my own experience, when you have somebody behind you, like push off right behind you, and they just sit there, just kind of drafting off you, tapping your feet every once in a while.
What were you thinking about with non-swimmers then?
I don't know, but I was ready to answer the swim.
Football players at the pool. What's the most annoying thing they do?
What are you reading, watching, or listening to right now?
So rewatching two political shows, The West Wing and The Newsroom. In our kind of crazy political culture, opinions aside, it just like harkens back to a time of normalcy. And so trying to really craving that. And so my wife and I, we like watching shows together. And so we've kind of gotten into those two recently and have already watched them, but like are going back through and watching them again.
Yeah, nice. Good call. I did a rewatch of The West Wing last year too. So
it's so good.
Respect. So good. What's the best swim that you ever saw live?
Ooh. I mean, it's hard to argue, and I have a personal, investment in this, but it's hard to argue in terms of like all-time performances. Katie's mile in 2018 when she went 15:20. I mean, and the way she split it, absolutely ridiculous. I think that will stand a very long test of time. If I think about like one of the coolest like races that I've seen, one that did not involve me at all, but watching Eric Vent and Michael Phelps at Santa Clara back in like 2002 or whatever that was, in the 4 a.m. was just amazing. And I was like just getting into a slightly more elite level of swimming and watching. And so that was really fun.
Quick double click on Katie's mile. As in my head before you even started answering the question, I thought that's the one you might say. What was it like to be on the watch as you're catching those splits?
Yeah.
Are you sitting here like, oh, it's too fast? I don't know. Or are you like giggling like Luke is right now?
Yeah. I mean, she had done some ridiculous things in training the like 2 weeks leading into that. And so had a feeling, and it was her first meet as a professional. And so like had a feeling that she was going to be pretty good. And, it's Wednesday night of a pro swim. There's like 100 people in the building and not even our whole team was there yet because some people were traveling in that day and they were going to race the next morning. But I can distinctly remember like Ella Eastin and Simone and maybe Katie Draba. There were like a couple people that were there already. And at like the 600, I just turned around to them. I was like, you may want to pay attention to this one because she was just like locked in and it didn't look hard. And so, every time she flips in the split, you're just like, oh my gosh, like she's hammering. And we had, we've seen that in training at times. I mean, just like some of she's here right now. She was here the last couple of days and and she's here for today and maybe tomorrow, and then is heading back to DC. But like, we were kind of sharing some good stories the other day about, you know, some of the things that we saw her do in training that I just still to this day, I can't believe that I actually saw it. And you're hitting the split button on the watch and you're just, you know, just awesome.
Don't tease us. Give us an example of something.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were like two that stood out, and she won't mind me sharing these, but we did a suited 2000 for time. And she went 18:21 and her 1,000 splits were 9:12, 9:09. Right. Like, those are moments where you are, just in awe, and you become a fan, as much in those moments because you're truly watching greatness. Yeah. Like, Katie is the greatest athlete I've ever been around. I mean, just tour de force. And so like, that was amazing. And then we did some cool like interval challenges over the years, and some of the things that she would get down to, just like, just amazing. But, you know, she's so committed to her craft, but does it in such an awesome way. And like, her public persona is 1,000,000% her personal persona. Like, she is everything that, you know, she presents herself to be publicly. She's just an amazing human being that happens to be the greatest female swimmer of all time. And so I love when she comes back, and she really enjoyed her experience here. She loves coming back to campus and swimming with our team occasionally. And so I love when she comes back and just getting to spend a little bit of time with her. And just what an amazing person.
All swimmers can, you know, do a 50 and touch the wall and tell the coach to the 10th what time that was, right? That's 24.4. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I've seen Katie do pace 50s in a meet, just a World Cup meet, and I time up pace 50, say 28.6, 28.6, 28.6. And that night, she was at 800, and the core, you know, 600 or 28.6 exactly. Then the next night she comes and she just pace 50s for the mile, and it's whatever it is, supposed to be like 31 to whatever it is, and that's the exact pace she does. We do it once. She did it 16 times in a row. What is it about her? Is this a secret to her longevity? Is she going to be going on till Brisbane? Is that she is just such a master of this sport that she's just leaps and bounds beyond her physical? It's her mental, her acumen, her dedication. What is it that's going to keep her going to not retire? You know, soon. Yeah.
It's all of that, but I think that the thing above all is she truly loves to swim. I mean, she loves swimming. She loves being in the water. She loves pushing herself. Like, I know it was like so hard to get her to take a little bit of a break at times, because she just, not because she felt like she needed to train. She just like loves training and wanted to be back in the water. And so when you truly love the sport or craft that you're doing, it's amazing. You can have a pretty long career. And in like, of course, she works as harder than anybody I've ever seen. And her consistency separates her. But at the end of the day, she loves to swim. And I think that's what is really special.
Greg, besides all the swimmers that you've been around at a high level, you've also shared the deck with a lot of elite coaches. I remember the first time you and I met was when I was on the 07 Wugs team in Thailand, and you were on the staff of that team. And I remember really enjoying our interactions on that trip, but I was also struck by, and I think I've shared this with you once before, that I was like, this guy reminds me so much of Dave Durden. Like, I know that they were just like, there's some of the style and character, and it wasn't a year later that then you joined the deck with Dave, and we're coaching with him for several years, and I was just like, man, I saw it. Out of all the people that you've been around, I'm just curious, like, what are some of your favorite isms, mantras that you've picked up from some of the great coaches that you've been around?
I mean, I had the privilege of spending a summer in Ann Arbor. It was the summer of 2000. I went out there to work Michigan swim camp, and then I wanted to just be a sponge around John Urbanchek. And so I was also on deck for the Club Wolverine workouts. And when camp ended, it's like, hey, can I stay on for a few more weeks? And I stayed on for a few more weeks, and then it was like, hey, can I go to trials with you guys? And they were so gracious, and they let me come to trials. And so just being around that, at that time, right, that was the summer that Tom Malchow broke the world record in the 200 fly. At the games that summer, Chris Thompson won bronze in the mile. Just like, it was awesome to see John in his element and just like learning so much. A lot of, my background is kind of rooted in that, and I've evolved over the years, but some of that I'll just continue to rely on. But I would love when he would just be like, move it, and so I still, to this day, like the women will tell you, I still use that. Because it's just, it in part because it's lighthearted, but also like, yeah, move it. And then in part, it reminds me of John. And, we lost a true treasure this year when he passed. But his spirit is going to live on in college swimming and in USA swimming for a long time. And so that I'll never forget that experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, he probably didn't do too much of this, but how much are the Stanford women doing social kick these days?
Anybody that's ever stepped foot on our pool deck, or if anyone has been in our group at an international camp, the Olympics or Worlds or whatever, we only social kick and warm up. We never don't social kick. We also never have intervals in warm up because I think that's just wrong. And so it's gotten a little out of hand because sometimes, a 300 social kick takes them 7 minutes. And it's like, you guys, come on. We got to like get going a little bit. Right. But we've also, so something, you'll appreciate this, because something that we have done a little bit this year outside of warm up, when we're doing, we do big kick sets on Friday mornings, and we also do big kick sets on Tuesday afternoons. Sometimes we'll call it like working social kick, where they can chat, but the interval's tight enough where they have to like have a little bit of an honest effort, but they can put fins on. And so, if we're doing like 6-1s, high quality, somewhat challenging interval, and then we'll do a 200, and maybe we do that 2 or 3 times. That 200 is like a working social kick where they can, push off together. They can chat. They just need to make the interval. And it helps just kind of reset and be ready for the next thing. I mean, environment is what it's all about. If you don't have a fun environment in a training session, man, this sport's hard enough. So actually, I mean, I know we joke about social kick, but it's kind of important. It's like that, piece that holds everything together. For a college team, when you're busy all day in classes and you're running around, and then everybody gets to the pool deck, and it's like, it's the time to just connect with people. Because not everybody's getting on deck at the same time if they're coming from somewhere. And so it's like, yeah, we get in and we do social kick every day, because I think that's actually really important.
Hell yeah. Well, we love that. Greg, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We so appreciate anytime we're at a meet and get to see you and interact with you. You're one of those people that's just always welcoming, always friendly, great to be around. So a sincere thank you, from us for showing up that way. And thanks for sharing this conversation with us. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate being on. It's always fun to talk some in.
Awesome. Well, that's it for this episode of Social Kick. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick. And you can find all of our content on our website at thesocialkick.com.